Name's RonVrooman, and I'm with the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. I'm here with Jeff and William. Would you guys introduce yourself, please?
My name is Jeff Bowen. I'm with Sedona Creek Talk on YouTube.
I'm William Appel. I'm with the Statewide Jural Assembly.
And today we're here to talk about the real constitutional Republican form of government. We've talked about that before, and we're seeking 45 Oregonians for our grand jury and trial jury. Today is October 31st, Halloween 2020, and I'd like to make a little statement because of that being the day. Recently, I found out that hello was a satanic greeting. HELLO. That's a satanic greeting, and I've been using it all my life. Now, how in the hell can that be? It seems like everything I know is a lie. So, what I want to talk about is the definition of Halloween. They converted pagan holidays into Catholic or Christian holidays and blurred the lines. And in my whole growing up life, Halloween was a fun time. It wasn't evil, and witches were just, that was a funny thing. Like, what the hell is her name? The Wicked Witch of the North and all of that. Oh, yeah, Oz. So, yeah. So, what I'd like to talk about is we are into good, not evil. And we are into God and not Satan. And we are into justice and not injustice. And those are some definitions that we're dealing with. It's so hard to deal with legal and lawful and jury and all the things that they do to us in their definitions. But I'm going to make it really clear. We're into good and not evil, even if it's Halloween. And I'm going to look at Halloween as how it used to be when I was a kid. We had fun. We played games. And there was nothing evil to it. Over to you guys.
I second that, Ron. It's funny. We're finding out that, and I'm not going to quote anything here today, but Christmas, Easter, you name it. You go through these holidays and we've been duped. We've been tricked, and it's quite evil once you drill into it. So I've just chosen to not take Christmas away from my grandchildren and not take gift giving away from my grandchildren or even Halloween, but just be aware consciously that a lot of the things you've been taught and told over your life are lies, and a little bit of research, refuse to acquiesce, be involved a little bit. And if you know these things in your heart, then you're going to be fine. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I myself was raised without the holidays. So, it happens around my house, but we choose to tell the truth about them. You don't tell the kids that there's a Santa Claus and, the tooth fairy and all that stuff, because, if your kids or your grandkids catch you in that lie, then they're going to ask you, are you lying about other things, drugs and alcohol and whatnot? So I choose to tell the truth, even though I have to live in the world that has these holidays, or I've heard them called holidays, So that's how I have to deal with it, because we live in the real world here.
So I was listening to Jeff talk the other day, and he's looking to get off grid. And I was wondering if you might share a little of that with us.
Absolutely. What I'm going to do is there's a section in Arizona where you can get property at a very reasonable price. So you can get 40 acres for $25,000 or $35,000. And I'm here to tell you 40 acres is a pretty good chunk of land. The fascinating thing about this area is there's not electricity down the roads and out into this rural area. So everybody out there already has solar, and they do very well at it. It's no big deal. It's second nature to them already. The second largest aquifer in the United States, the Coconino Aquifer, is an ocean of water underneath this area, which is fantastic. So you drill down, you're going to get your well water out of the Coconino. You're going to use solar power to pump that water out. And there's fairly rich soil in the area. And along with a greenhouse for the wintertime, you can literally be off grid. Nobody's wired, nobody's piped, no municipalities are coming into your property. If somebody tells you you need to take this vaccine, or you can't go to the grocery store, or you need to take this vaccine, or you can't have a job, or you need to take this vaccine, or we'll shut off your electricity, your power, I'm going to tell them, pound salt, because I will have all my own water, all my own electricity, and I will be producing all my own organic food off grid. And so this is going to be my choice with the current events that are taking place on planet Earth globally right now. And I feel I'll have the best chance to have peace of mind and get along with my life.
Outstanding. Going to be up by Dr. Frog.
Yes.
Good idea.
Yes. Ron and I kind of came together on a YouTube channel called The Seething Frog. Dr. Frog is 73 years old. He's from Montana. He's a retired lawyer. And he actually, believe it or not, I used to watch his YouTube channel. I had no idea he lived down the street from me. And I ran into him at a friend's house, which really blew my mind. And we became friends. And at 73, he sold his house near me in Arizona, and he has already moved to this area. And the solar's in, the well's going in next week. I talk to him daily. He's got the slab poured for his new home. He's got a beautiful view. He has 40 acres of property. There's like-minded people all the way around him. People that believe in the Second Amendment, conservative people with old-fashioned values. And I truly am excited to be able to get to an area like this and spend the remainder of my days like that.
Come out and do a coffee route and go back home, huh?
Yes, sir.
No, sir, I enlisted.
Yeah.
So when we're doing this stuff and trying to get it together so that we can have a constitutional Republican form of government, how do you guys see this coming together with an election coming on the 3rd? And from what I hear, whichever way the mop flops, we're going to have trouble from the other side. So what are your thoughts on that?
William, what do you think?
Well, I believe that both the Democrats and Republicans are wings on the same bird. So you go one direction, you get the same thing as going the other direction. So I know the direction we're all going, and it's UN Agenda 21 or 2030. So we want to leave these big cities and go on to out in the woods and be self-sufficient and that kind of thing, or even just right outside the cities. But they really want to just round us up and get us inside these cities. So kind of scary in that way. But if a lot of people went that direction, maybe we can hold ourselves out there and make sure that we start to know our neighbors out there. I mean, when you're inside the cities, you just don't get to know your neighbors here. It's very scary, actually, in some ways. But you get out there in the country, and people tend to be a little bit more like-minded, country oriented and friendly and sharing and that kind of stuff, as opposed to the big city like I live here in Portland.
Well, what I would say, Ron, is, once again, do not acquiesce. Do something. This is going to be ugly coming up next week. Here it is, Halloween, and by the time this is aired, the election will have already happened, and God willing that it won't be a train wreck, and God willing that this show will actually air, and we'll actually still have local television channels, and we'll still be okay. But do something and do some research. Check in to the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. Check into becoming a sovereign human being. Do some research. Do not just sit back and accept the train wreck of doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. The definition of insanity. Step up and get a hold of Ron, get a hold of William, and see what they're talking about. Because I'll tell you, I'm in Arizona and I cannot be part of the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. And you see me hanging around with these guys. I would love to be. I'm going to do something in a direction on Arizona as soon as I can. I'm just looking for the right crowd.
Well, you got a pretty good crowd down there now. Have you ever run across, what's his name? Russell-J. Gould?
I'd like to run across him, Ron. Yes, I would.
Well, he's down there someplace. Rustle him up.
I know. I'm going to probably do that, actually. I would love to sit down with this gentleman. Absolutely. Since he is the commander-in-chief, he is the chief of the Supreme Court of the United States. He is the world postmaster. This guy's got a lot of juice. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Of course, it could be true, but the chances of it being true, I find to be difficult.
What Ron's saying is there's a gentleman that claims he captured the flag of the United States out of a bankruptcy in 1999, and he was a grammar expert, and he knew all the ins and out on hyphens and punctuation. And he filed some legitimate paperwork, allegedly, and captured the fourth American flag or something of that nature, and literally somewhat took control of the United States of America out of its third bankruptcy. It's a fascinating story. His name is Russell-J. Gould. He has a YouTube channel. It's extremely difficult to wrap your hands around and even think that maybe it's true. But the more I look at it and the more I see these politicians on both sides acting oddly and acting strange, it makes a lot of sense to me. It's worth investigating.
Yeah. Anna up in Alaska has, she's come around to, she doesn't put him down anymore. She said she talked to him in person. I think it was in person. Maybe it was just a phone, but I think she met him and talked with him. And since then, she hasn't been putting him down. So, possible. You never know.
Yes,
Could
it
be
is.
something to it.
Yeah, yeah.
What we got now is really not working, whether it's Democrat or Republican. And like you were saying before we
Even
started
some of
the
these other
show,
parties, they've been overtaken too. I mean, the Libertarian Party, I had to step away from them several years ago when I seen who they had running for president. I think his name was Brown or something. You guys remember that back in running against Obama? What was his name?
Gary Anderson was a former governor of New Mexico. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I listened to him talk, and I couldn't handle it anymore. I just said, okay, I'm done with this crap.
Yeah. Then there's the Green Party, of course. And they got some good stuff that, I'll tell you right now that the two yahoos that we have, the Republicans and Democrats, are all part of one big club, and we are not in it.
yes, George Carlin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well, here on Oregon, our court met and we filed charges against the Green Party, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and the Libertarian Party, and the Secretary of State, Beverly, because all of them accepted Kamala on the presidential ticket for the Democrats. And she's what is called an anchor baby. Her parents were not Americans when she was born. Her dad was Jamaican and her mom was a Red Dot Indian. So she is not qualified constitutionally to be the president or vice president. But all four of those parties and the Secretary of State of Oregon turned a blind eye to the Constitution and let her run. That doesn't go.
Yeah,
It's just proof that we're under martial law.
Yeah. People don't understand, and I learned this, Ron, from you. Thank you very much. You don't just have to be born on American soil to qualify to run for the vice president or the president of the United States. Your father has to be an American citizen born on the land, not your mother. It does not matter what your mother does. It has to be your father. Am I correct, Ron?
Yeah, but your father doesn't have to be born here. He only has to be naturalized here. Now, if her dad was already an American citizen or a U.S. citizen when she was born, then she would have had the nationality that he had naturalized into instead of Jamaican.
I see. Thank you for correcting me on that. Thank you.
We were going to talk about agencies and bureaus a little bit, and you had a couple of interesting things to bring to our attention about the FBI and the CIA that I thought was interesting. If you want to share that with the crowd here.
So this is alleged. I don't have any proof that I can put up for it right now, but my wife came across some stuff that showed the possibility of Christopher Wray taking funds from the communist Chinese to hush some of the Hunter Biden stuff that took place in China. That was alarming to me, and it makes a lot of sense. And then Gina Haspel, who's the CIA director, I did some research into this and found that she was representing the CIA in Europe, and her job was to be the point lady for the Central Intelligence Agency regarding SEAL Team 6 and the cover-up of what really happened with the Iranian nuclear money, where $152 billion was wired to Iran and $2 billion in cash were put onto pallets and flown in on C-117 military cargo planes and handed over to the Iranian government. Now, what allegedly really happened there was the Iranian government got a hold of Hillary Clinton at the time, Secretary of State, and President Obama, and said, hey, our annual falconry hunting expedition that's very world-renowned, if you're into hunting with falcons, is taking place, and Osama bin Laden was an avid falconist, and he was over there, and they said, would you like us to hand him over? And Obama and Clinton said, no, we would like to have a trophy kill. So they asked them to take him to Pakistan and stick him in that so-called compound that they said he'd been in for 6 years. And then Obama could send in SEAL Team 6, get the kill. It was right before election. It would play out wonderfully. Well, Iran got sneaky and sent a body double over. SEAL Team 6 went in, killed and apprehended the body of a body double that was not Osama bin Laden, hence the reason why they took him out on a Navy ship and dumped him overboard within 24 hours and claimed that that was his Muslim respect that they gave him. Now, if anybody knows anything about the Muslim faith, you know, they're to be buried a certain way, facing east and so forth, has nothing to do with being thrown overboard a Navy ship lickety-split. What happened was they got his body, they got him out on that ship, and they went, oh no, this is not him. So they just dumped him in the ocean real quick. And then Iran says, geez, you guys wouldn't want the rest of the world to know about that, would you? And that's where the 152 billion wired and the 2 billion in cash came in. And that was blackmail money. And Gina Haspel had been covering that up for the CIA in Europe, and she did such of a great job. She got promoted to CIA director here on the mainland.
Yeah. Agencies and bureaus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And we pay taxpayer money to fund this stuff.
You can't make it up. You just can't make it up.
Yeah.
The stuff that we're dealing with is just incredible. And there's a guy on YouTube named Roy Potter that is he is so much evil and so much negativity coming down the road. He's just really difficult to listen to, but you can't disregard him. He's got a lot going. Smart guy. And then there's that Nancy Morgan Hart, and I don't have an idea what she looks like. You never see her. She's just a voice, headlines with the voice. But she's coming up with a lot of information too. Trying to figure out which way to go. I have voted in every single presidential election since 1956. And Trump was the first time I'd ever voted for president. I had voted for the wrong person every single time. And I wouldn't vote for the lesser of two evils. If I thought they were both bad, I'd vote for somebody else. I voted for Anderson at one time, a senator that was against the Vietnam War. And, I voted twice for Perot. And then I vote for Trump, and he turns right around and breaks his oath and has no honor, and I can't vote for that guy again. And so for the first time in all those years, I'm not going to vote in the presidential election this time. Whatever happens, I don't have a dog in that fight.
Yep. What I would say to folks out there, once again, do not acquiesce. Do something. When you, especially in the Portland area, when you take money out of your paycheck and hand it over to the state government and the federal government, and they turn around and treat you folks like they have, they do not protect you adequately. They lock you down. They tell you you have to wear masks, and you are paying them for this. We need to stand up. Even if it begins with doing some research, take back our sovereignty, take back our governments, take back our rights, and take back our freedoms. If we don't, here pretty quick, we may not have anything left.
Well, we're working as hard as we can on that. Getting people to be unafraid is really difficult. I talk to a lot of people, wrong word. I email with a lot of people, and I talk to some on Skype and on the phone. But all over the country, I hear the same thing from people that I've been dealing with for years, that everybody's afraid. And it just amazes me that they're so afraid. But then I look right around my own neighborhood, and there they are, still afraid. Can't figure it out.
Ron, I had an unfortunate experience this week with my daughter, and she's 28 years old. Love her to death. She's a great kid. Have two beautiful grandchildren. She says to me, Dad, I just can't talk to you about this stuff anymore. I just can't. And I said, well, I understand. And I tried, she says, no, we have to not, we're just not going to be able to talk if we have this type of conversation. She says, if they come and they hold my family down and they give us a vaccine forcefully, we'll just have to take it, and I thought to myself, they've worn these folks out. They've worn this younger generation out who's out there working and trying to make a living and raise a family. They're wearing them out. They've almost got them. They've almost done it. Cause then I thought, well, I'm almost 50 years old, and my good friend RonVrooman's in his 80s, and we're full of piss and vinegar, and we're fighting the good fight. Why have these millennials gotten worn down? Well, I guess you have to look at the social media and the way that they've been, programmed the last decade or so with social media and so forth. And it scares me, guys. It truly does. It really scares me.
I had a
They don't have our
conversation.
back when we get out there with this stuff.
I had a
I'll be
convers-
there, if somebody needs help, but the next generation does not have any cojones to help us at all. My kids feel the same way, I believe. Half of them do. Half of them will just bend over and take the shot. Sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll
I
get
have
us
a
by
gr-
those kids too.
I want to say this. I've tried 3 times and I can't get it in, but I'm going to get it in now. I have a granddaughter that's in her 30s. She's a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR, and she's also a bar attorney. And she won't talk to me about anything except my 2 great granddaughters, her kids. Anything else she won't discuss with me because we just we're at loggerheads with her position being an attorney and my position being so dead against the corporate governance, illegal, unlawful treatment that they've been giving us for 150 years. We just can't get past it.
Yeah, well, they've been trained by the school system to believe the supposed authorities, to stand in their single file line. And the authorities, the school system, they have answers to everything, whether they really do or don't. So, why are they questioning them, right? That's how they kind of feel. And, and we have a sit down conversation with them and have a conversation about politics, and it doesn't appear to be what they were told in school. If they were even told anything in school, or even this coronavirus thing, they think that we're crazy or something. But when you just look back through real true history and find out, well, this thing happened again 100 years ago in 1918. Well, what happened then? What'd they do to us? Nobody's really doing any research. They're just taking the news's word for it. Has anybody pulled up a news article from 1918 to see what was going on then? How did the people feel? Did we talk to our grandparents or our great grandparents to find out how they felt about these things? Because they were there. But the new generations, they just don't want to listen to the wisdom of the older people. There's no.
Here's what the government did, and I come across this and found out how sneaky they were a couple of weeks ago when I put up a show on Sedona Creek Talk. On September the 14th, 1976, Gerald Ford signed in the Emergency Powers Act. The Emergency Powers Act is essentially martial law. And just so you guys know, we are currently under the Emergency Powers Act with Donald John Trump here on Halloween of 2020. And that gives them far-reaching powers to lock us down in our homes, take our rights away in ways that's unconstitutional. It's essentially martial law. And I noticed something, and this was a little before my time. I was alive, but I was very, very young. In the United States of America, you used to have to pass a civics class in order to graduate high school. So you had to have a credit in civics in order to get your diploma. They eradicated that slightly a few years before Gerald Ford signed in the Emergency Powers Act. So they didn't want the kids to learn anymore about their rights and about their constitutional rights. So they went ahead and 86 the civics class in high school, and then instituted the Emergency Powers Act so they could start taking our rights away. It's funny how the government does these things kind of secretly and in a very shady way.
Yeah,
Well, the UN's involved in the school system, right?
they sure are.
They're trying to
2030.
cut out all that, history included.
Yeah, I mean, it took me to till I'm 48 years old to even understand what the Emergency Powers Act was, and I could probably teach a civics class, 101, a rudimentary civics class today, and a year ago, I didn't know squat, but it's fascinating. Like I said, do not acquiesce, folks. Learn a little bit. Check into your Constitution. Start reading your Bill of Rights. All you got to do is get a paragraph in. Listen to the older people. You get a paragraph into the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, and you'll be like, whoa, wow, that's not, they've already started taking these rights from us. It's easy to see. And here's the deal. There's about 100 people with money in the world that control 7 billion. Think about that for a little bit. 100 people control 7 billion. Now, it seems to me like them 7 billion ought to be able to just swat that 100 right out of the way and take their rights back within a second, anytime they wanted. But they don't.
We're changing that. I'm positive we're changing that.
Yep, I agree, Ron. Thank you.
It only takes a few people. I mean, the cutting ourselves off from the king, right? It only took, a very small amount of the population to actually do that,
Yep.
Everybody wasn't for it. They were scared people back then. And I don't feel the people are any different today than then, really. There'll be people that'll back us, and there'll be a small population of that, percent of the population, and then the large amount will just sit back and do whatever the hell happens. So if we, stand up and get our rights back, they'll go, oh, okay, I guess I'll have my rights now.
Yeah, and on Oregon and around Portland and anywhere in the state, you have the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly, which is a magnificent group. No, and I mean
Thank you.
It's a magnificent group. I've checked it upside one and down the other. They have done it right. They know what they're doing, and you folks out there in that area have them at your beck and call to help you, to educate you, to answer questions, and you could be part of the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. You really could. And you want to talk about feeling liberated and feeling free? It's amazing.
Thank you. That was a hell of a plug. I really appreciate that. We'll send as many people as we can to the Sedona Creek talk.
All right.
Okay.